Everybody, it's Jo Parr, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group. Are you feeling stuck with your Gundog training? Trust me, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to be here. Every week, we're bringing you the best tips and hacks to make training your Gundog easy peasy. We'll keep it straightforward, no fuss, just actionable guidance that you can put straight to use. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of Found It, Fetched It. This week, we're going to be discussing elbow dysplasia in a working dog. Joining me for this podcast is LWDG group expert Claire Denya, who sadly had to recently go through this with her pup. So, Claire, firstly, hello. Welcome to another wonderful podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about the situation you found yourself in?
Yes, absolutely. So, as do most people when they get a new working pup, you're really excited about getting them through puppyhood and all the play-based puppy training that we do, and then starting formal Gundog training from around sort of 6 months of age. And we were the same with our most recent pup. And then when she hit 6 months of age, she started suffering with intermittent lameness. And this went on, and we sort of spoke to the vets and took the vet's advice and gave her crate rest. And it was discussed that it could be growing pains, and it could be this, and it could be that. And then over sort of a few weeks, regardless of following the guidance that we were given, this intermittent lameness would keep coming back. And we started to notice a difference in her gait and her foot placement and the way that she was moving. So we decided to delve a little bit deeper, and we went to see the vet, and it was pretty obvious something was going wrong. And so we admitted her in to have x-rays so that we could get an idea of what was happening. The x-rays were pretty inconclusive, and it was explained to us that elbow dysplasia was what they believed it was, but that elbow dysplasia didn't really show on x-rays. And the only way to determine that was actually with CT scans. And we were given the option of leaving her for a few months and seeing if there was any improvement or deterioration, or to go ahead with CT scans. And so we were like, no, it definitely can't be that. But it sat really awkwardly with us to just leave her looking so uncomfortable and being in pain. So we decided to go ahead with the CT scans. And lo and behold, there it was, diagnosed elbow dysplasia.
So it was confirmed via the CT scan. But before, when you'd just taken the pup to the vets, had they even thought that it could be that?
Yeah, the vets were saying that because of the way her gait was changing, there was a possibility that it was elbow dysplasia. However, they did say it could also be growing pains. It could be this, it could be that. And, you know, they said the problem is with elbow dysplasia, it doesn't show on x-rays. So we could have not known. And let's just say she hadn't developed this odd gait, or she wasn't intermittently lame, we could have had elbow x-rays done to look at potentially breeding her down the line, and what was there would not show. So that, you know, it's a real minefield for people. You know, you can do all these things and do all the research, and still these things can come and bite you.
It's quite fascinating what you've said there. But before we go further down the path, let's go back to your reaction when you got the news, because like you said, you bought from health tested stock, good stock. You are not expecting this to appear on your horizon whatsoever, are you?
Absolutely not. It was absolutely ground shaking shock. Tears, frustration, sadness, worry about her future. And ultimately knowing that surgery was going to have to be done. So then it was just deciding, do we do it now? Do we do it later? Do we wait for things to get worse? We were lucky to get such great advice, and we were told that the younger you do it, the better the prognosis for the future. And so began the journey, really, of kind of learning, understanding, and working out how to give this beautiful working line pup the quality life that she deserves with this underlying condition.
So originally, when they told you like you could do the surgery, is surgery like the only treatment option? Are other things available to people, or is this one of those things where you really need to fix this in a way that it doesn't come back?
They basically told us that because of so elbow dysplasia is like an umbrella sort of term for a few different conditions, but specifically with what was happening with our pup, she had an abnormal bone growth. And that abnormal bone growth was basically, they described it to us like when she was walking, it would feel like having a stone in your shoe. And so they said, that is very painful. That's why she doesn't want to put weight in that leg. That's why the other leg is doing this. And so basically, they said we could do this operation. We could remove that abnormal bone growth, and that would ease off that pain. However, because of the nature of the issue, she will have arthritis. But of course, loads of people as well as loads of animals have arthritis, and it can be managed. And so there was a much greater opportunity for her to be in a lot less pain if we went ahead with the operation as quickly as possible to give her the best fighting chance of growing into a strong dog.
As what I hope is a trusted friend, and we do so much together, we talk together. You showed me the videos and I could almost tell you were embarrassed to show even me the videos. There was this part where I felt you were so traumatized by her capability to move with her, won't you?
Yeah, it was horrific. I felt awful. And yeah, I knew there was this problem, and I knew the problem needed to be dealt with. But I felt absolutely gutted, and it was almost frightening to show people the videos. One, because you were showing the reality of what it was, and two, because of judgment. How did this happen? Why has this happened? And the bottom line is she had an abnormal bone growth. There was nothing anyone could have done differently. There was no way of knowing that was going to happen to her. It just was what it was. But we were like, okay, so let's deal with this and let's give her the most pain-free life we can. And honestly, when we got that diagnosis, I felt like my world had completely fallen apart, because I was like, will she ever be able to be a normal dog? Will she ever be able to be a working dog? And actually, there's still some question marks over some stuff. But as we chat through this, what's happened has been so far quite remarkable, really.
So before we get to like where we are present day, because I think like so far there's been a happy ending to date. Tell us a little bit about like the surgery and like and what she had to go through to get to where she is now.
Yeah. So she was kept in North Downs. Well, first of all, bless her heart, she was a pup, and she's only just literally had her first birthday, like literally last week. And she obviously had to go through the X-ray and then the CT scans. And then there was another general anaesthetic for the operation. And she had to be kept in for 3 days. They keep them in for a day before to prep them and make sure they're good. And then the surgery, and then they come home. And that was really scary for me to think, oh, my pup's going to be kept in. Like, that's horrific. Not a good thought. Didn't really like that. But I was like, she will be in the best place. It's so that they can ensure she's ready, and that they can give her the care that she requires. So she was in there for 3 days, had the operation. And then the reality hits of the long process of rehabilitation, So the first 2 weeks, complete crate rest. And when we talk to people about the benefits of crate training their dogs, this for me really highlights it, because if I had never crate trained that puppy, how on earth could I have had her on crate rest for 2 weeks with literally just a handful of on-lead toilet breaks for 2 whole weeks? Like, she wasn't allowed to have free time in the house. She wasn't allowed to have free time in the garden. She had to be pretty much isolated from our other dogs. It was literally out of the crate on a lead, walked to the garden, we walked back in the crate for 2 solid weeks. And then became the start of sort of 5 minutes on lead exercise per day, and then starting physio and now hydro. But what I have learned about dogs and their resilience through this is actually it will never be something that I'm glad has happened, because how could you ever be glad that something like this has happened? But what it has taught me about dogs' behavior and pain and dogs' resilience to overcome stuff, like, has been phenomenal. But also the amount of people that have reached out for me since I started sharing her journey, because I was really nervous, but I've always prided myself on being honest on social media about how I raise my dogs' lives, their training, their working, me as a trainer. So it's a really big decision to put that on social media, but actually the amount of people that have reached out and said, thank you for sharing this because I'm going through it and you are giving me hope, has been phenomenal. I can't believe it. And we're now literally this week, 12 weeks post surgery. And this is now the beginning of the beginning because the last 12 weeks has been such a process of rehabilitation, carefully building up her physio, starting hydrotherapy, all of that. And literally now she's starting to be able to be a dog again, literally.
In our 21-day canine challenge, there's a video coming up, and Jeannie's in it for a little bit in one of the ones that are still to come. And
yeah,
the difference in her gait is unreal, isn't it? But do you think that it's impacted her ability to train and be like where you would expect it to be at 1?
Oh, 100%. Yes. So basically, I've got this puppy. Well, she now just turned 1 year old, but she's still a puppy because her training came to a grinding halt at 7 months. 7 months, her training just came to a grinding halt. She's got to be a dog where it's like for 1 year old, she's done such a small amount of training. But yes, that's in terms of technical Gundog work. Like, she's not allowed to retrieve properly yet. We're not retrieving. At the moment, building up a little bit of off-lead time. She's now allowed to have a little mooch, a little run. And we've started using the amazing little micro dummies from Field and Fireside. We're using them for her to hunt for them so that she's got something to activate her brain. And they weigh such a small amount that it's safe for her to pick it up. It's, not going to put any pressure on her. But she's really not done very much training. However, what she has done, the stuff I've had to teach her for her physiotherapy, so sideward stepping over cavaletti poles, balancing on wobble mats, like standing on wobble mats and dropping 1 foot off to the right and back on, and 1 foot off to the left and back on. Now, my Rose cannot do it. She's rubbish. John and I have had to think outside of the box so much to help improve her stance, her gait, her core stability, that actually we've had to train things we've never trained before. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So she's done some really cool stuff, but for not a very cool reason. But it really shows you how clever they are and what they can learn.
When I was watching the really small clip that you sent me, because Rose is in the next clip and she's the first, I almost saw, and I've got to be honest, like a baby Rose. She was so focused on you. And I thought, for her age, she's really calm. She's really self-controlled. And I wondered, has she bonded? And John would poke me in the eye for saying this. Has she sort of suddenly become your dog because she seemed really, really attached to you?
Yeah, so let's hope he doesn't listen to this. Yeah, she do you know what she has? But equally, she's really bonded to John. And actually, what is different, because she's had so much time on lead and doing physiotherapy with us, so whether it's John or I, as much as she loves Rose and Dude, she is really into us because of that training and because of that experience, I think. She's definitely John's dog, but I know exactly what you mean. And when John's like walking her and doing bits with her, she is giving me a cheeky little side eye as if say, "Hey mum, look at me," while she's doing stuff. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So now, obviously she's still got a long road to recovery, but are there sort of things you do? You talk about like physio and hydro and all those types of things you can do to support her improvement for the future. But is there other things you're doing? Like, do you have to still make sure she doesn't do as much as maybe another 1-year-old dog would be doing? Or is there any sort of like movements she's just completely not allowed to do?
So the way it's been explained to us, so firstly, what they did say to us was, although after 12 weeks, we can start increasing exercise, increasing off lead time. And basically it's going to be a bit of suck it and see what she can do and doing everything in little incremental steps so that we don't push her too far. But they have said that the actual bone will take up to a year to completely heal. So that's another 9 months away yet. But that doesn't stop her doing stuff. We've just got to take precautions. So things like not letting her jump on and off things. Well, she thinks she's Zebedee. So a lot of management and control and training is going into that. We've trained her to use a ramp for the car and things like that. We've also trained her to put her paws over our shoulder so that we can lift her onto our shoulder. So she understands that if the ramp isn't there, if we put a hand on the shoulder, she puts her front paws over our shoulder to be carried. So we've taught her like some strange skills, really. Everything will be dictated by her. Sadly, she has already got arthritis in the joint. That is already there. And it will be expected that she will have periods where maybe she overdoes it and we get a little bit of lameness, we get a little bit of stiffness, but we'll just have to rest her, rebuild her, and work with her. But as we go along the process, we'll get to learn the things that are not working well for her. So things like, obviously it would be really daft to have her jumping, that would be just a silly thing to do, really. The issue with retrieving is the braking hard as they come into the retrieve. So as we start to retrieve, it will be in cover so that she will slow down to start hunting instead of running straight at the retrieve. So again, it's just thinking outside the box and being creative in the training of how can we still train the thing, but in a safe way. Luckily, she adores swimming, and swimming is something that will be really good for her. So luckily, she absolutely loves that. And we have been given the green light that she'll be able to go swimming soon. So that's great.
Is there anything you're giving her like diet wise or supplement wise, or like you get all these like joint cares again, they're there for humans. Does she take anything like that as part of her management plan?
Yes. Yes, so there will be things that we will introduce into her diet to support and help her. Now, John and I are quite into sort of the holistic side anyway, so things like green lip mussel and things like that are all really beneficial. And basically, like anything we do now will help keep her strong and healthy rather than wait until we have later issues with the arthritis maybe being worse as she gets older. So it will be a case of introducing those things now while she's young to help her stay fit and mobile. But we will continue with the physio. We actually really enjoy doing it with her. We will continue with the physio and we'll continue with the stretches. She does the most amazing yoga down dog, which is so good for her to do. I actually can't do it with her. John does it amazingly with her, but I'm quite rubbish. She ends up laying down when I do it.
If you think about it, like even the stuff we're discussing, they're not necessarily part of every single working dog's day. But to a certain extent, they should be, because things like stretching, warming up, taking care of joints, like we've talked about this in past podcasts, they are things that we can do to prevent issues. Like you're having to deal with something quickly that wasn't your fault, that was caused by bone growth. But we need to know how to do certain things, and our dogs need to be able to do them, so that if we get to a point where the dog has developed arthritis through age or does have an injury, that we can rehabilitate quite easily.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I've started messing around with some of the stretches and moves with Rose, because, well, she's 5. In a couple of years' time, she'll be classed as a senior dog. So although she's fit, healthy, and muscly now, and I'm thinking actually longevity here, I'm thinking long term. So that's why I've started trying to teach her some of the physiotherapy moves. Not that they come as naturally to her as they do to Jeannie, but I just think what's the heart? It can only do good. There can only be benefit to doing things that will strengthen your dog's core and keep them flexible and mobile, and definitely warming up and cooling down before and after exercise is so important. Like, we're all recommended to do it as people. I know we don't all do it, but we are.
It's really interesting because Charlotte, my daughter's got a Cavapoo cross that is incredible at her agility, but she's had to retire at 4 years old because of back problems. That it seems is part of this cross. And we've got the push on, and Char says to us all the time when she comes up here, she's like, have we done stretches with him? Have we done stretches with him? Because she's constantly thinking about the fact about his back. And Meg has taught him since a pup how to stretch out. So, touch wood, he doesn't get back issues, but it's just built into her now as this like preventative measure. But the hydro practitioner that Char goes to see says it's so many dogs that they get brought to the pool all the time to do things that now that we are more aware of what our dog's body language is telling us, regardless of the breed.
Yeah, 100%. And what the dog is telling us in body language and also in behavior, because that was a massive thing for me. Like, when John and I do behavior work, we talk all the time about reading dogs' body language and also getting dogs checked for pain when we're working with behavior. So it might be that you see an unusual gait, unusual body language, or a nervousness, anxiety, that sort of thing. And so we would always in behavior work say, go and get the dog vet checked before we have a look at the dog and look at behavior modification, because there could be an underlying reason. And what's happened here has been such a massive, massive part of that. And, when Jeannie went intermittently lame, alongside that, at the same time, she became very, very fearful of people and very vocal about it. And it was literally a stay away, stay away. And she would literally hide behind my legs. But her body language, you said about body language, her body language was just very, very uncomfortable looking. And it was like the whole package here. But she, of course, was also of the age that it could have been a second fear phase. But what we noticed was after the operation, when we took her for her vet check, for them to check the wound, they actually couldn't believe the difference in her body language, her body posture. Obviously, that part was coming partly from the operation, but we're talking really early days post-surgery here. But bigger than that, her attitude and her less fearful behavior about people coming towards her. So it just went to show that the pain that she was in from her leg made her fearful of people touching her, basically, was what it came down to. And of course, because she was in pain, every time a vet examined her, pulled her around, it hurt, which just increased that behavior even more because it was painful. But she was using body language to tell us that it was painful, as well as the vocalization.
When I watched the video of her the other day, I was like, you would never know that was the same dog, because there's nothing in her gait now of what I saw that would make me think she ever had a problem.
Absolutely. So she stands now completely straight with the front legs. The only time I see any slight on the foot is when she's tired, physically tired. And I think it's a bit lazy, but I think because of all the strengthening exercises we do, she's got much more adapt at keeping her feet straight. And I took a picture of her the other day and I sent it to the physio and the hydrotherapist and the chiro vet. And I was like, look at this, look how straight her legs are. It was like a different dog. And I'm just so glad that we didn't leave it for 6 months and see how she went. I'm so glad we said, no, the dog's in pain. It's affecting behavior. It's affecting posture. It's affecting her entire living because she was physically in pain. I'm just so glad that we did it when we did.
What would you say to sort of any handler who's going through a newly diagnosed hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, where they've been given this news and they're going obviously through the shock that you went through? What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be really be open-minded about the entire picture. Don't just write the dog off. Like I look at Jeannie now, and maybe some other people, if they had had her, might have written her off and given up on her and gone, she's got elbow dysplasia, she's like this, she's never going to make it. And that would have been the end of, their relationship with her. Whereas we've kind of gone, we're going to do the best for you, whatever. I almost feel like she was supposed to be our dog in a weird way because we have learnt so much from her. And so my biggest piece of advice is don't write the dog off. Listen to the advice. The first 12 weeks after surgery are hard. The first 2 weeks are the hardest, but the first 12 weeks are tough. But actually, embrace the journey and the learning with the dog. Embrace the journey of the dog learning the skill sets to do the physio, finding a different way to train the dog as well. Like we had to teach her to walk on the right so she was balanced on both sides. We couldn't just walk her on the left anymore. She had to do an equal amount of left and right so she was bending and flexing. And like a lot of people wouldn't even bother doing that. And it's like, oh, okay, so now we're going to teach you this. And now we're going to teach you this. And so it's embrace it and actually be led by the dog, read the dog, understand the dog and be led by the dog. And actually, I'm looking forward to watching her future. I think she's going to surprise people. I think she's going to be a dog that will do far more than anybody has thought that maybe she will. I think she's going to be a special little dog.
Yeah, because like even there you said like about teaching to walk on the other side. We've moved to somewhere with a really busy road to get to the countryside, and it's only a really short amount of it, but you need it to get to the access point. And I don't like the dogs being on the left-hand side of me because they're near the pavement, and almost like a mum might want to be that side and put them into the hedge or the wall or wherever, so that there's me between them. And Ella will quite happily go either side because she's always been around roads. But for Rex, he's like, what are you doing with me? And he's fighting me to get back the other side. And I'm like, why don't we teach this? Because a left and right walk is really helpful in certain places. And, it's those little things there. When we follow pattern of behavior for what we'd expect to train our dogs, we might be missing things that are like, well, actually, I need this little bit, or I need this little bit, or, you might not need to get your dog over an elbow dysplasia operation, but they might have just been neutered and need to be calm and be quiet around a crate, or they could have had a cat out beaten and need to be calm around a crate. And it's almost like we can almost train in advance for things we hope will never happen.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's exactly it. And I think also like a lot of the exercises we've taught her and mental stimulation stuff we've done with her to keep her kind of mentally, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not mentally stable. That's not what I mean. But basically, to stop her going stir crazy after the operation, a lot of those things could be used for dogs that have been neutered, that have been spayed, that maybe have another reason that they've got to be on long-term crate rest. It's not just because of this one condition. And tap into and be like, well, we can do this now. She can do this because this is going to tire her out mentally, fulfill her mentally, and then she'll be more content in the crate. So you're absolutely right. It goes far, far deeper, the benefits of teaching your dog. It's not all about going out on long walks and doing long training sessions. There's so much more that we can do that mentally stimulates them.
So what has been your biggest learning experience through the whole journey, having to deal with that? Obviously, you've got other dogs in the house. You've got your own health challenges when it comes to like pain and things yourselves. What has been your biggest takeaway from all this?
Trust your gut instinct and read your dog. You know when your dog is showing you signs, whether it be physically or through their behavior. You read the dog, and also be really open-minded to suggestions. Try not to let people's judgment cloud your vision either. There were so many times where people have strong opinions and you just have to go, no, my gut says this is what's right for this dog and that's what I'm going to do. And we were right. And I think it's just because we went with what we felt the dog needed.
Yeah, because there's a section of society who, and I'm not judging them at all, because I know for a fact my father would have fitted into it, which would have been probably to say to the vet, this dog's not going to be able to do what it needs to do. What do you think? And the vet would have said, well, quality of life, they would have had the conversation, and it could have ended up with the dog being put to sleep. And just through trying to think ahead of what's best for the dog, it always comes from a sort of care and welfare point. But I suppose with you, like you say, the dog found the right person. Because of everything you go through, there was probably a fighting spirit in you that said, well, actually, perhaps she can get through this and like you said, come out of it and become something else. So, yeah, I think she definitely did find the right home, because other homes might have chosen to put her to sleep and not out of any malice, other than just thinking, she's not going to be able to keep up. We're not going to be able to give her the welfare she needs or give her the time she's going to need. Like, you're in a situation where you're all day working with a dog, so you can be there to do all rehabilitation. For other people, that might not have been an option. So I think she definitely did end up in the right place.
Yeah, I do believe now that is the case, but I also feel she has helped so many other people now. Like, honestly, that has been a little bit overwhelming, the amount of people that have sort of messaged me and thanked me. And, even one lady messaged me that follows Rose's page, which is where I've documented Jeannie's journey. And one lady messaged me, she was taking her dog in the next day to the same surgery. And she was like, I'm just going to be following your journey and hoping it will keep me inspired and stop me feeling so depressed about what was happening. But yeah, like the fact that her journey through this with me and John has been able to help other people, I think is really important. And it's removed some of the stigma. Like, why should we not be honest and talk about these things? Because they're out there, and it's not a blame game. But her quality of life is outstanding, like outstanding. She's having the best life now. And yes, it's different. It is different to what we originally planned. But I do think, given time, she will be able to do all of the things, maybe just in smaller doses, maybe just less often. But she'll be able to do it. I have no doubt. She's a strong little fighter. I'll give her that.
So do you see... to go with your Life of Rose series available on Amazon, the books, is there now going to be a Life of Jeannie?
I feel like there should be a Jeannie's Journey book. Yeah, I do.
And like you said, it's dealing with, a difficult and complex conversation from the point of an owner. And a few months ago now. Remember there was a podcast with a lady, her dog, I can't remember the name of the illness even.
Yes, I do remember.
So many people have gone onto that page, have listened to that podcast, have sent messages and saying, my dog's just been through the same, or I lost my dog to this. And, it's those points when we can have conversations, which are not always the easiest, but they do give insights into things that aren't talked about all the time, so that we get to put another level of understanding onto our knowledge and experience.
100%. Yeah, exactly that. And I remember that podcast, and it was really quite emotional to listen to, even though I've never been through it, but so educational. And I think that's the point. We have to be brave enough and honest enough to talk about these uncomfortable conversations to help other people. Otherwise, these things just stay as like unspoken. They stay unspoken, and that doesn't help anybody. We're always talking about communication and the importance of it. Well, this is just another level of it, isn't it, really?
It's episode 88, Surviving the Storm, a journey through immune-mediated hemolytic anemia, IMHA. So that's one of the podcasts that's on here as well. Thank you, Claire, for another amazing podcast. We do massively appreciate it, and we do appreciate your vulnerability and honesty around the topic. For those who are listening, if you have any questions, you can find Claire on social media. What are your Instagram handles, please, Claire?
So Instagram, as myself, I'm Claire Denya, at Claire Denya. My business is at Family Dog Services. And if you wanted to specifically look at Jeannie's journey on this topic, that will be found at The Life of Rose.
For anybody listening, we hope you've enjoyed. Please let us know if you have any feedback, anything you sent to us that you want us to pass on to Claire. We are in the run up to Christmas, so our last podcast will be the 20th of December. We're taking a short break, and then we will be back with you January. During that little break, we hope you will catch up with some of the many hundreds of podcasts we have available for you. We've learned so much today about navigating elbow dysplasia and what the early symptoms may be, how quickly we need to get to the vet. And like Claire said, trust your instinct. If your dog doesn't seem itself, take them along. At the end of the day, it's far better to go to the vet and say there's nothing wrong than to put it off. It's not something that Claire probably wants to have expertise in, but like she said, silver linings is meant that she has this capability to talk to people and help people with their dogs should they go through it. I think it shows as well the amount of love and resilience she has for her dogs, and the fact the work that she's done to get her dogs through it. If your dog is dealing with elbow dysplasia or any other sort of issues at the moment, please speak to us, share with us. Obviously, of course, your first protocol will always be, but remember, our community is here to support and advise you too. We are a community of non-judgment, so there isn't going to be a situation where you share your conversation and you get judged for it. We don't allow it. We never have. We never will. Please make sure you are joining us for the 21-day challenge, because that's full of fabulous little challenges you can do inside the house or outside the house with your gun dog to keep you busy in the run up to Christmas, and the capability to win an amazing £310 in cash vouchers as well. If you'd like more information or need guidance, visit our website, visit our resources, or check out our free open community ladies at Ladies, Leads and Laughter on Facebook. Remember, no matter what you've got going on, we are here to help you. Thank you very much, and we look forward to speaking to you next week. I don't know what to say for that. And thank you all for being with us. Please subscribe, please review, and we look forward to speaking to you all next week. That's it for today's episode. A massive thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to the LWDG and sign up for our membership. Get access to expert-led training, a wonderfully supportive community, and the resources you need to become a confident and skilled gun dog trainer. Let's take this journey together, because no woman should have to train her gun dog alone. We'll see you all next week.